Hey guys, and welcome to Top Channel 101, and today we're doing another animation from Isidium by Dimension Studio, and they use Cinema 4D. We're going to use Blender, and yeah, these are my results. These are theirs. You can see I just tried to get exactly what they were doing, the animation here, and yeah, get the flower. Okay, so let's jump in and see how to get this done. The project files are going to be on my Patreon page, Gumroad, and on my YouTube membership page if you're a YouTube member. Okay, so the first thing we can set up is this kind of soil thing. So I get the heart here, and it already has that animation, which is nice. So I used dynamic paint to get the soil to work, to move. So what I did was just get a plane with a lot of subdivisions. This was going to be in a vase. I just created a circle selection like that, inverted the selection, deleted the rest. So I have something like this. Now I can set up the dynamic paint. So this is a canvas, format is vertex, and the surface should be waves. And the heart is going to be dynamic paint, type brush, and mesh plus proximity. If we play back, you can see we get something that works immediately. And then all we have to do is to increase the scale of influence to get more ripples. You can also reduce the speed, maybe something like 0.1. Yeah, something like that is good enough. Now we can turn this into rocks. So I'm going to just go into my previous project. I have this collection of these rocks. So I'm just going to select those, and we're going to use them as instances. I have these stones here. They are very small stones with very little subdivisions. I'm going to add a soil material on this. I'm just going to go to my materials library in my asset library. Let me search for soil and just apply something simple like this. Then from there, I'm going to also add a new particle system, hair system, set the length to 0, and then turn on advanced. And a velocity, we're going to use the Z to be 1, and then render collection. And we need these rocks to be in a collection. So I'll select them and add them into a collection called X. So I can use it here. Select that, X. Scale them up, randomize their rotation. I'm going to use the normal and randomize everything. We need quite a few here, so let's use 10,000. And if we play back, you can see they already deforming like the dynamic paint we're adding there. So that's how you do that. For the plant itself, we're going to just create a curve object. I'm going to start with a curve like that, make sure that it's straight, and subdivide it a few times. So you can pause it in any way you want. So this is going to be the final form of our plant as it grows. So you can just design it as you want. So let's assume this is our final stage of our plant. Because we're going to be using geometry nodes, let me switch that here so that we can start setting up a few things. I'm going to set up some, let's see, thickness. So give this a mesh to curve to mesh, use a circle that will curve. Yeah, this is just to show you what is going on here. So this is what we have. What we're going to do is just add a hook on each of these points because we want to animate them in a way like that. So I'm going to select any of these points, use Ctrl H to assign a new hook, select another one, Ctrl H, assign a new hook, Ctrl H, assign a new hook, and here Ctrl H, assign a new hook. I usually like to have my hooks, all these empties, to be displayed as sphere, and I also bring down the radius a bit. So now we have these control points that we can animate. So I know that this is going to be my final position. So I can go to, I don't know, frame 100 and just insert a keyframe, come back here, and just start animating. Before I even do that, I can also add in some animation for here. I can do a trim curve because I want to trim this as it grows. So let me expose this value, and these are our hook modifiers, and just animate this value. So at 100, I want this to be here, and then at 0, I want this to just be 1. So if I play back, You can see how that works. This sort of animation is also good enough, but you can see how this deforms and changes direction. Yeah, you can't just do that with a trim. You have to have these control points so that you can animate them. So I want this to start around maybe bent. Can go in different directions. So if we play back this, you see how we can get some nice animations, and I can even just make them more complicated. So you can spend a little bit more time here to get the perfect animation you want. And you want this animation to start as this is growing as well. So I'll just something like that. That's good enough. Then the next thing is to design this so that it looks like a tree stalk. So I'm going to add a curve like this, go into edit mode and just edit it a bit and make a few duplicates like this. I want to create the profile of the stem. So yeah, something like that is good enough. So I can come back to this and I'll call this profile, come back to this and just drag our profile in here. And instead of using this, I can get rid of that and just use the new profile we have just created. And that should give us more detail in the curve. I will have to reduce the thickness of this so I can do a transform here, transform node, and I just scale this down like that. So you can see we're getting more detail into this. And we can also come here before the trim. We can do a set tilt, curve tilt, so that we can tilt this along its length. So I'll do a spline parameter so that I can get the length by the factor and use that to multiply, to tilt the curve. The factor is not strong, so I'm just going to multiply that by some value. So let me do a multiply, and you can see how that now looks much better. Now, if I play back this, you can see now it looks more like something that is growing. Now, if you want to even make the effect sell the effect better, you can even add an add node here and animate that with time, scene time. So I can plug the seconds in here, and that should rotate this continuously. And I think I need to multiply the time to amplify the effect. So you can see how that is rotating, continuously rotating. It does give us a nice effect. Just keep it to something minimum like that, and that's great. We can also use the factor here to make it smaller at the top here. So I'm going to use, after the set tilt, we can do our set spline curve radius here, set curve radius. So that this is the value that controls that, but we can use this factor again to do that. And you can see now the curve is smaller at the top and then thicker at the bottom, which is great. You can even add, say, another math node. Just grab this and multiply that again. If you want more control, you can even add a ramp that you could make it more like that. Actually, I think the set radius should come after you trim the curve, not after, not before. So if you want something like that, yeah, so you can just bring that before, and we don't want this to be too small like that at the top. So I'm going to add a math node with the operation of add, so that we can add some thickness to that, so that it's not too thin. Okay, let's see what else. Now the next step is to create the leaves. So I'm just going to grab this, copy that, paste it in here. Yeah, so we have our leaf here, and it's already set up with the materials and everything. So now to add this to here, we want to start from here, so we can branch off. This is what we have. It still has the animation, and the trim is also part of it because we branched after the trim. What we want to do is change this to the points. It's using curve to points, and that will give us the points, and we can instance on those points, instance on points. What we want to instance are our leaf. So I'm going to grab that from the outliner and bring it in. Now you see what we have. Now this curve to points comes with the normal and rotation, we can align Euler to rotation, so we can to vector, so we can set the rotate and the vector and the normal to the vector, and then so that these are rotated correctly. Just need to find the right axis. Perfect. Now the leaves are rotated in the wrong direction, so I can rotate these again by using vector math, and just adding some. So this is rotating it on the Z. This is rotating it on the Y. Yeah. So yeah, we want to rotate it 1.57. Is it times 2? We should be 180 degrees. And let's see. Yeah, I think that's good enough. Yeah, we want to scale them so that at the top they're smaller, and then at the bottom they're also small. So to do that, I'm just going to come here. It should be after the trim. So let me join these two. I can do a capture attribute because I want to capture the length of this spline or curve, so that I can use it to determine the scale of each of these leaves. We want the leaves in the middle to be bigger than the ones at the bottom and at the top. So I'm going to capture the length, which is going to be the factor here. The factor is the same as the length, but clamped at a range of 0 to 1. So I'm going to capture that and just use it as the scale for this, and now you can see we get exactly what we want. At the top they're small, at the bottom they're big. There is some weird rotation going on with the leaves, so what I can do is use another curve node called set curve normal, plug that in here, and I want this to be Z up, set to Z up, so that the leaves are always pointing up like that. And remember, this would start a bit below everything, so you just have to play with the timing. And I can also do a set material for this stem. So set material, just give it a green. Okay, that's should be this. And we might want to reduce the scale of the stem. So with that, we can start animating the rest of the leaves. All you have to do is first figure out how to instance the leaves in a pattern you want. So for example, I've already modeled the petal, which is this, and this flower here, and this leaf here that you see at the end, this leaf here with all the materials. So all I have to do is just set up a curve object like this and use curve to points and turn those points into instances. And I'm just going to use this leaf here as the starting point. So like that, you can align the rotation. And if you use a transform node here, you can get the correct rotation. So this would be, I think, 90 degrees there, and then 90 degrees, or negative 90 degrees, like that. Can bring them closer. They're intersecting, so to get rid of that intersection, we can randomize the rotation a bit. So I can use vector math with the operation of add and use separate x, y, z, because I want to randomize the z rotation so that they are not overlapping. So I can use a random node, random value, connect that like that, and play with the range. And maybe we could even scale this on the x-axis a bit like that. If we add a math node here, we can have control over the angle of this rotation and expose that value. And we can even animate that value if we want. So I want another value for the scale here. Yeah, so you can see I can animate this as well. So what I want to do is create a reveal animation for these. I did it a bit differently in my version because I used a sine wave to add some nice animation to this, like a bouncy effect to this. So if I go to this here, this is our rotation, and add, if I want a bounce effect, like what I have in this animation, that effect you see there, that bounce effect, you could add a math node with the operation of sine because this is the sine wave is just going to give you a looping effect. So if the more I increase this value, I see we get that effect there. We can use a time value, scene time, connect these seconds, and that should give us the animation we want. Another thing I could do to speed this up, I can use, let me isolate this for that. So you can see how that looks. What I can do is just use a math node. So I can speed this up by using a multiply operation. So maybe by 3 or 10, I don't know, if you want to speed it up. So now all we have to do is just animate the scale. So the final state is going to be that. So I'll set a keyframe, and the start state is going to be 0. So set a keyframe there, and now I can just do this reveal. So you see, maybe multiply this by 5. Yeah, something like that. Another thing we could do is we could do this for the petals as well. And I can offset the timing as well of this. So the petals are coming after, after the other stuff, like that. But the rotation is a bit too much. Yeah, you could do a lot of tweaking, but I guess you get the point here. And what you can do is duplicate this, give it a rotation, and maybe scale it down a bit and offset the keyframes. Make sure that everything is at the center and you have your collection. Then we need to bring this collection to be the tip of our flower here. So to do that, all you have to do is just go back here, create a new branch. So where we still have the trim, because we want this to be planted at the tip of this as it grows. So from the trim, we want to create a new branch, and we can turn this into points, instance on points, change the curve to points, and then instance on points, and then grab our collection, flower collection, and use it as the instance. And now you can see that at every point we have that animation, that flower animation, but we don't want it on each point, so we can do an endpoint selection, so that we only select the endpoints of these curves, and that's what will have the instance. So we can do this here. Now it's not working because this node works on curves, and we are inputting it into instances. So to make sure that it works, we need to capture that data and then use the captured data. So we're going to use capture attribute. Now we're capturing booleans. So connect this here, and then we can capture that and then transfer that here instead of grabbing it directly into this. Yeah, we just need to do the opposite. So now you can see that the endpoints have, you can see what we have. We're seeing them at the end and at the top there and the end here. So to only just see them at the end, we just want to remove the end size, set it to 0, so that the bottom ones disappear, and we just retain the top one. But we are seeing 2 instead of 1, and that's because of this count here. If we reduce this to 2, we should only see 1, which is what we're going for. And you can see that works out perfectly as we want. Now you can even change the timing of these. You can bring their keyframes a bit back, or even scale them, the animation. So if we go back to the flower, I look at this. Yeah, you can see that it's growing. We just need to join these to the entire geometry to see how everything is working. So it's disappearing too early, so I can come back here, just these keyframes here, just, yeah, pull them back a bit so the flower grows. I think I want it to start showing up around here, so you can play with the timing. But the rotation is off, so I can come back here and we can use the rotation of this, the rotation of the points, and yeah, I think, yeah, that's good. Yeah, the scale is too small, so I can scale that up, and we have that. It's not perfect, but yeah, if you spend a little bit more time on it, you can get something that looks good. You can get the project files to examine how I did this properly, with the timing and everything, how I animated the camera, because that also helps a lot. The rotation of the camera also helps a lot. So this was the final results. You can see how everything worked out. Project files are in the description. Thank you for watching.